Hello there, and welcome. Find a comfortable place to rest your head. Let the noise of the day fade into a soft, distant hum. The lights are low, and the night is full of quiet stories. We are the sleepy historian. And tonight we are drifting back, far back, to the sun-drenched hills and marble cities of ancient Greece. We often think of this time as one of bright democracy, of powerful philosophy and breathtaking art. But beneath the gleaming surface of the Parthenon, life for half its population was a world away from the bustling agora. Did you know that for a young noblewoman in Athens, her wedding day, an event we now associate with joy and celebration, was structured with all the solemnity and sorrow of a funeral, a final goodbye to the only life she had ever known? So settle in, take a slow, deep breath, and let's explore this quiet tragedy together. And if you find a moment of peace in our stories, perhaps consider subscribing, so we can continue to share these late-night whispers from the past. Now, close your eyes, and let us begin. Our story starts not with a bride, but with a girl, a Parthenos, a maiden. Imagine a sprawling Athenian villa, its whitewashed walls cool to the touch, surrounding a central courtyard where the sun filters through the leaves of an olive tree. Here, in the secluded heart of the home, the oikos, is where a young noble girl spends her days. Her world is not small, not yet, but it is enclosed. It is the scent of wool and lanolin from the loom where she learns to weave intricate patterns alongside her mother and the household slaves. It is the rhythm of grinding grain, the soft melody of a lyre she is taught to play. Not for public performance, but for the quiet entertainment of her future family. Her education is not in rhetoric or mathematics, the domains of her brothers, but in the meticulous art of household management. She is learning to be the silent, efficient engine of a great estate, a future queen of her own domestic kingdom. In these sun-dappled years, she has a unique and sacred freedom. She is under the protection of Artemis, the fierce, wild goddess of the hunt, the eternal virgin. As a servant of Artemis, she might participate in religious festivals, a rare and precious opportunity to walk in the public eye. She might be an Artemis, one of the chosen girls who live for a time on the Acropolis, weaving the sacred peplos for the statue of Athena. In these moments, she is not just a daughter or a future wife. She is a vessel of the divine, a symbol of the city's purity and piety. Her laughter might echo in the courtyard with her sisters or a few chosen friends. She has a name, a family, an identity rooted in the hearth of her father's house. She is her father's daughter. This is the life she knows, the sun that warms her face, the stories whispered by her nurse, the familiar faces of her kin. This is the world she is about to lose, forever. She does not know when the end will come, only that it is inevitable. And it will not be her choice. One day, two men will meet, her father, who is her Kyrios, her legal guardian and master, and another man. This other man might be a stranger, someone much older, chosen for his wealth, his political connections, or the strength of his family line. He is her prospective husband. The two men will sit. They will talk of land, of influence, of alliances, and they will talk of her. She is a crucial piece in this transaction, the living link that will bind two families together. This negotiation is called the NGI. It is not a proposal of marriage. It is a pledge, a contract. Her father will pledge to give her to this man for the purpose of producing legitimate children, and in return, the groom will pledge to provide for her. Central to this contract is the dowry. This is not a gift to the young couple. It is a portion of her father's wealth that she will bring into the new marriage. It is her security, but it is also her price tag. It will be managed by her new husband, and should the marriage end, it must be returned to her family. It ensures she is treated well, a valuable asset that cannot be easily discarded. And where is the girl in all of this? She is not present, her opinion is not sought, her feelings are not considered. She may never have even spoken to the man who will soon control every aspect of her life. Her consent is irrelevant. The consent that matters is that of her Kyrios, With a handshake, her fate is sealed. She is no longer just her father's daughter. She is now a bride-to-be, promised to another. The transition has begun. The word might come to her quietly, from her mother perhaps, as they sit at the loom. The name of a man she does not know, a new house she has never seen. A future she did not write. From this moment on, the world begins to feel different. The familiar walls of her home start to feel temporary. The rituals of her girlhood take on a new, poignant significance. They are no longer just her life. They are the final days of her life as she knows it. The clock has started ticking down to the death of the Parthenos. Before the wedding comes the Pro-Julia, the day before. This is not a day of joyful anticipation, of parties and celebration. It is a day of solemn rites, of severing ties. It is a day of goodbyes. The bride-to-be, accompanied by her mother, will make a pilgrimage to the temples of the goddesses who have governed her life thus far. First, to Artemis. In a quiet, sacred space, she will offer up the treasures of her childhood, her dolls, the toys she played with in the courtyard, the simple tunic she wore as a girl. She will also cut a lock of her hair, a potent symbol of her virginity, and lay it upon the altar. This is a profound act of renunciation. She is formally releasing herself from the protection of the virgin goddess. She is telling Artemis, "My time as a maiden is over. I am leaving your flock." It is a prayer for a safe transition, but it is also a farewell. Next, she might go to the temple of Hera, the goddess of marriage. Here, she will pray not for love, but for a successful marriage, which in ancient Greece meant one thing above all else: fertility. She will pray for the strength to bear children, specifically, to bear a legitimate male heir who will carry on her husband's family line. This is to be her new purpose, her primary function in the world. Her value will no longer be in her piety or her potential, but in her womb. The final, and perhaps most significant, ritual of the Pro-Julia is the ceremonial bath. This is no ordinary washing. The water is drawn from a sacred spring, the Enikraunos, and carried in a special vase called a lautrophoros. This vase was also used in funeral rites for those who died unmarried, a chilling link between the two ceremonies. As she is bathed by her female relatives, the water is meant to purify her, to wash away the last vestiges of her girlhood and prepare her for the physical consummation of her marriage. The atmosphere is not festive. It is somber, quiet, heavy with unspoken emotions. It is a ritual cleansing before a great and irreversible change, much like the preparation of a body for its final journey. The girl who entered the bath will not be the same one who emerges. Then comes the wedding day itself, the gamos. The day does not begin with music and laughter, but with blood. At her father's home, an animal is sacrificed. The entrails are read by a seer to determine if the omens for the union are favorable. It is a stark reminder that this marriage is not just a personal affair, but a matter of cosmic and civic importance, a transaction that must be blessed by the gods. After the sacrifice, the bride begins her transformation. She is dressed not in white, a modern tradition, but in a tunic dyed with saffron, a rich yellow or reddish-orange hue. This garment, the peplos, is woven by her own hands or by her mother. It is a final product of her life in her father's house. And then comes the most crucial element of her attire, the veil. It is heavy, opaque, completely obscuring her face. From the moment it is lowered, she ceases to be an individual. She becomes an icon, a symbol. She is the bride. A passive, silent object at the center of the day's events. She is seen, but she cannot see clearly. She is present, but her identity is hidden. A wedding feast follows, but it is a strangely divided affair. The men, her father, her groom, their friends and relatives, will feast in one room, the andron. There will be wine, food, conversation, and celebration. In another, separate part of the house, the gynaeceum, the women will eat. The bride sits among them, silent and veiled. She does not eat, she does not speak. She is an object of display. Her stillness and silence are testament to her modesty and virtue. She is already practicing the role she will play for the rest of her life, to be unobtrusive, to be contained, to be controlled. The real climax of the wedding day arrives as dusk begins to fall. The sun sets on her childhood home for the last time. This is the moment of the pomp, the procession. It is the most dramatic and the most funereal part of the entire ceremony. A chariot waits outside her father's door. This is not a gentle invitation. The groom will enter the house, and he will take her. He will grasp her by the wrist, a gesture of ownership, not affection, and lead her out of her home. Her father may make a show of playful resistance, a symbolic reluctance to let his daughter go, but it is only a show. The outcome is predetermined. The groom lifts his veiled, silent bride into the chariot. He will sit on one side and his best man, the Parachos, on the other. She is literally and figuratively trapped between them. This entire act is a ritualized abduction. It is a direct echo of one of the most foundational myths of Greek marriage, the story of Hades, god of the underworld, seizing the maiden Persephone from a field of flowers and carrying her away to his dark kingdom. Every Greek would have understood this powerful symbolism. The bride is Persephone. She's being taken from the world of light, her mother's world, and carried off by a powerful male figure to a new, unknown realm. As the chariot begins to move through the darkening streets, the air fills with a strange mixture of sounds. Torches are lit, casting long, dancing shadows. Flute players and singers lead the way, singing the hymene, the traditional wedding hymns. The songs are meant to be celebratory, to ward off evil spirits, but behind them, another sound can be heard, the cries of the bride's mother. She stands at the door of her now emptier home, and she wails. It is a ritual lament, a public performance of grief for the loss of her daughter. Is it all an act, or is it a genuine expression of sorrow? For the mother, she is losing her child to another family, another home. For the bride, this journey through the night, surrounded by the shouts and songs of strangers, her face covered, her body jostled in the chariot, must have felt terrifying. It was a journey from the known to the utterly unknown. A funeral procession for the girl she once was. Finally, the procession reaches its destination, not a temple, not a public square, but another house, the groom's house, her new home, her new prison. At the door, the groom's mother is waiting, holding a torch, a symbol of her acceptance of the new bride into her household. But entry is not simple. More rituals must be performed at this critical boundary. The bride is given a quince to eat, a fruit associated with Aphrodite and fertility. As the couple enters, they are showered with dried fruits, nuts, and figs, a prayer for abundance and, again, for children. The groom does not simply lead her inside. He often carries her over the threshold. This is not seen as a romantic gesture. It is a final act of possession, a way to prevent her from stumbling, which would be a terrible omen, and to ensure she enters his home under his power and control, without her feet even touching the ground of her own volition. She has not walked into her new life. She has been carried into it, like an object, like a prize. Once inside, she is led to the family hearth. Here, she is formally introduced to her husband's household guards. She is no longer under the protection of her father's hearth. She now belongs to this one. The veil is finally lifted, but not in public. It will be lifted by her husband in the privacy of the bridal chamber, the thalamos. The consummation of the marriage is the final act of this transfer of ownership. The following day, the Apolia, gifts are given to the bride from her new family. But these are not gifts of freedom. They are often perfumes, jewelry, and fine clothes, tools to enhance her beauty for her husband. They are gilded bars for her new cage. Her world has now shrunk to the confines of her husband's oikos. And within that oikos, her domain is the gynaeceum, the women's quarters, typically located at the back or on the upper floor of the house. This is where she will spend the vast majority of her life. Weaving, managing the female slaves, and raising her children. She is no longer a Parthenos. After her wedding night, she is a nymph, a bride. and once she has given birth to her first child, she will become a gyne, a woman. Her identity is now entirely defined by her relationship to her husband and her reproductive function. Her husband, her new Kyrios, now controls her property, her movements, and her social interactions. She cannot leave the house without his permission and without a male escort. She cannot engage in commerce or politics. Her friends will be chosen for her. Her purpose is singular, to provide a legitimate heir to her husband's estate. If she fails, she can be divorced and sent back to her father's house in disgrace, her dowry returned. She has moved from one man's control to another's. Her name is now subsumed into his. She is the wife of so-and-so, the mother of so-and-so. The girl who once laughed in the courtyard, who made offerings to Artemis, is gone. In her place is a wife, a mother, a mistress of a household, a respectable position, certainly, a powerful one in its own domestic sphere. But it is a life defined by enclosure, by duty, and by the complete erasure of the person she was before. So, was a Greek noble wedding a funeral for a bride's freedom? It was not a funeral in the literal sense. There was no burial. But in every other way, the comparison is hauntingly apt. It was a public and ritualized ceremony marking the death of one identity, the Parthenos, and the birth of another, the gyne. It was a transition marked by symbols of grief, loss, and abduction, the severing of ties with her childhood guards, the somber preparations, the lament of her mother, the violent symbolism of the torchlit procession. The transfer from one master to another. It was a journey from a world of relative, protected freedom within her family to a life of profound restriction and duty in the home of a stranger. The joy and celebration were almost entirely for the men. For the forging of alliances and the continuation of a bloodline, for the bride, veiled and silent. It was the end of her story and the beginning of his. And so our story for tonight comes to a close. The torches of the wedding procession have burned down, and the halls of the ancient villa are quiet once more. The young bride is now a wife. Her old life nothing more than a memory, a ghost that haunts the sunlit courtyard she left behind. Think on her story as you drift off to sleep. Remember that history is filled with these quiet moments, these profound, personal transformations hidden behind the grand sweep of empires and wars. Thank you for joining me. Here at the Sleepy Historian, may your rest be deep and your dreams be peaceful. Good night.